A good morning to my beautiful people of Earth and all other interdimensional entities here on this glorious spring day, Friday, the 28th of August 2026, and the time is, what is the time? Let's find out. Are we still filming? Yes. 10:37 a.m. It's a beautiful day, but I feel a bit shattered actually, because I had a very intense dream this morning. My nickname on Pal Talk that I was gifted by the spirits when I was trying to decide a nickname for that platform. So my nickname was and is Psychedelic Dreamer, and I don't take psychedelics, people. I don't do mind-altering drugs, apart from in the past, the occasional little dabbling of cannabis, but I don't, I've never taken psychedelics, but I dream vividly and in technicolor. Lately, most nights, my dreaming's been very florid indeed, and psychedelic and wild, and it's been interesting. But why I'm a bit shattered this morning, and I'm a bit worried, and I have no one I can contact to find out if this person is okay. But I dreamt of my former Rabbi Ori Tamar, who was very kind to me back in 1989 and fought for me against the savage, vicious, nasty slander of Pam Hopfin or her cretinous associates, some of whom have since entered the light now, so it is what it is. They were middle-aged back in the day then, and should have known better than to other women like me who were actually innocent of that, even though, yes, my mother was German and did survive Nazi Germany. That does not make me a Nazi, or my infant children either. And doesn't actually make my mother a Nazi, except for being raised in that regime. She grew up with a few rather strange ideas that were indeed problematic, but she didn't ever hate Jews. And the reason why she was indoctrinated to not actually hate Jews was because her mother, I believe my grandmother, had Jewish ancestry. Can't prove it because there's nothing in the family history documents, which I did research hoping to find that. But my grandmother was born illegitimate to her Polish mother, who from what I can gather, had come out to Berlin from Poznan, Poland, as a young woman, probably driven by poverty or driven by childhood abuse, one doesn't know. But she raised an abuser, terrible abuser, very savage to my mother. My grandmother was very, very dangerous woman. So that intergenerational abuse dynamic gets repeated often in family lines, but my grandmother didn't know who her biological father was. It's listed on the birth certificate as father unknown, which that alone back in 1898 was the most immense stigma, to not have your father listed. But I have a suspicion, because my great-grandmother worked as a servant. So she probably, either by R-word or sexual assault, or perhaps did have a love affair that was consensual and loving for a time with the landlord. And I can't prove it one way or the other. It's just something I've come to wonder about over the years. I think he might have been been married and owned a a beautiful home, as so he could afford servants. And I think, and I can't prove it, he might have been actually Jewish. My grandmother had a small Chanukia, but she had lots of Jewish friends during my mother's pre-Nazi Germany. I've got the photographs of them, who were famous singers and Jewish opera singers. And that particular couple that were famous opera singers in Hamburg, Germany, were forced to divorce by Hitler, and it must have been just before the war, because he allowed the authorities allowed the wife to migrate to England, so she survived the Holocaust but was forced to be divorced from her, German, I guess, German non-Jewish Aryan husband. So, but anyway, my mother almost died of diphtheria when she, I still say it how my mother pronounced it, diphtheria, when she was 3. She was, in effect, what I call in the shadowlands of life and death. She was struggling for her survival in a state of dying. And a Jewish doctor, now when my mother was 3, the year was 1930, because my mother was born in 1927. So this is going to be a long video. She was dying, struggling for survival as a tiny toddler with diphtheria. And my grandmother always reminded her during her childhood and schooling during the Nazi regime, my grandmother constantly reminded her, remember, it was a Jewish doctor who saved your life. It was a Jewish doctor who came, no matter what, through snow and through bitter cold in the middle of the night to tend to you as you were dying of diphtheria. And she said, had it not been for that wonderful man, that angel, you, Gisela, my mother's name was Gisela, would not be alive. So she would try and deprogram her from the intense, anti-Semitic, virulent, poisonous toxicity that was Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945, till that regime was finally ended. Was it really ended though? Do these things really ever end? They just go underground and then flare up again with things like the COVID epoch and other anti-humanist, genocidal ignominies. But anyway, I digressed there, just to give an example of the enormity of what Rabbi Uri Tamal did for me in 1989, when a very evil, envious, spiteful woman decided that I was a Nazi because I was born of a German mother. So I dreamt of him last night. He had fought with me, for me, over the 2-year period that I was being slandered. It actually came to a head in 1991, where we organised in our then temple, Shalom, here in Brisbane, at Coolata Street, a special general meeting, so I could advocate for myself and explain why it was a profound injustice and an evil and an ignominy, those things mean the same thing by the way, to other someone based on their parents' former nationality. My mother naturalised a New Zealander in 1973. It's kind of an evil thing, and I get why people would do it. It comes from a space of absolute terror that the enemy might start up again, as they often do. But anyway, I had to fight for myself at that special general meeting and explain all the reasons why it was ridiculous to accuse me of being a Nazi in the first place, since I was born in 1965 in New Zealand to a New Zealand father, and had no connection to that war in Nazi Germany other than hearing the horror stories of what was happening to the Germans on that side of the war. The atrocity that my mother survived because she too could have prophetic dreams, and therefore survived the terrible phosphor bombing in July 1943, without which, having that dream and saving her parents, herself safely billeted down in Bavaria, she would not have survived long enough to even become my mother in 1965, or my half-sister's mother in 1950. So there is that. Anyway, Rabbi Uri Tamar fought for and with me by my side admirably, and we were friends up until they migrated, him and his wife Geraldine, to Israel in 26 years ago, so it must have been around about the year 2000 or 2002 maybe, which would make it 24 years ago. I can't exactly remember what exact year they went, but I was a little bit sad to see them migrate so far away, because I knew I would never have contact or see them again. And they had been, as I said, especially Uri had been loyal and kind to me. I think he, as he pointed out, he was in a very strange and unique position, being German and Israeli, defending a Reformed Jewish convert with a German mother who had been raised in that regime on the other side of the war, and the de facto stepdaughter of a concentration camp survivor. So my stepfather, Cornelis van der Graft, who languished in Middle Baldora for 18 months, and I was told at his funeral only survived because he was pretty. You can draw the conclusions from that, the very same conclusions I drew, although there was something very sadistic about telling me that on the morning of Case's funeral. Actually, no, I was told that at his actual funeral in the church where they conducted it, by another compatriot and survivor who had been in the same camp and experienced obviously the same things he had experienced, asking me if I thought he was a handsome man or would have been handsome when he was young. I concurred, yes, you are indeed a very good looking man, even though you are older now. Yes, has it ever occurred to you, Tanya Aarons, that only the attractive men survived that camp? I just looked at him and said, say no more. Message received loud and clear, without realising that that man had healed me in many multifarious ways, because Case, which was what we always called him, was his abbreviation of his name, Case had sexually harassed me often during my childhood. One time even threw me into a wall in the living room wall of 74 Seymour Road in Elstonwick in Melbourne. Threw a small 9-year-old child into a wall because she told him to fuck off because he was predating on me. Me. Anyway, Rabbi Ori Tamal did not know that particular history, because in those days, 1989 to 1991, I was still being a loyal, loving daughter, defending my mother against the Nazi libel, and myself, and my infant children. And I hadn't yet brought out of the dark shadows. Not yet, not completely, not yet. I did come to terms with it when I was 20 and expecting my first child, Crystal, but I hadn't yet spoken out into the wider public world about my childhood trauma experiences with sexual predators. There was a lot I hadn't yet spoken out about, and that really didn't happen till after I left my husband, when I was strangled and had a complete breakdown and realised, what am I keeping silent? Who am I protecting with my silence? Not even myself. Silence can be a dangerous, toxic enemy of the spirit, and I had lived with that for long enough. There's a great healing that comes in speaking truth to power. Anyway, another digression. I woke up this morning and from a very intense dream of Rabbi Ori Tamal, who, even though we have not spoken or had contact in almost 3 decades, I hold a lot of love and respect for, in spite of the toxicity that happened towards the end of our friendship by people that were othering and spiteful and jealous. Let's just leave it there, shall we? Enough of that. People close to him, I might add, disparaging me about my hair and telling me that I was ugly and that no man would ever want me, and that I would have to woo them with my quote unquote scintillating charm, my skill with words. Woo them with words, she said. You've got nothing going for you in the looks department. Nasty it was. But anyway, I have no antipathy towards Rabbi Ori Tamal. He fought for me hard, and he was good and kind to me, to my knowledge, up to and including the time when they migrated to Israel. I don't hold him responsible for the actions of people close to him. Anyway, in the dream of him this morning, I dreamt that he had come to visit me, to stay with me for some reason, which is not likely to happen in real, ordinary reality, people of Earth. But in the dream, I was terribly excited and happy to be hosting him, I think only for a few days. And he had an important meeting to attend, which was mentioned in the dream because I drove him to a very fancy looking shopping centre. It looked a bit like Robina shopping centre. Thinking about it now, it looked like Robina down in the Gold Coast. But it could have been a shopping centre anywhere. But anyway, he arrived at my home and I showed him to the spare room, to put his suitcase in where he would be sleeping. And I was kind of shocked and embarrassed to discover that instead of a double mattress on a double bed, that there was a very thin, narrow mattress put on the bed. And I apologised to him. I said, I'm sorry, Rabbi, I had no idea that my mother has switched over the mattress and taken the double mattress and left this single, thin, narrow mattress. I said, I had no idea. And he just looked at me and said, "That's okay. All I need is somewhere to sleep. I'm sure it will be fine." So I fussed around this mattress on this double bed frame, tucking in crisp white pristine sheets. And I only realised later this morning that I was doing the nurse's tucking it in and fussing about this mattress as if I was a nurse. I've never been a nurse, don't get me wrong, but you know what I mean by how nurses fuss when they're making the bed for a sick or dying patient. So the dream showed me that I was distressed about the mattress being switched out, which I would have been livid. And also in real life, my mother's long dead, and she had a way of robbing me of things, but it's illogical that she would switch out a mattress for a thin, narrow mattress. That was the nonsense of the dream. So anyway, we go in to have something to eat, and I made some lovely Rabbi Uri Tamar was born in Berlin, Germany in 1940, but he is also Israeli, an Israeli citizen. And so I was making, I had made hummus, and I had bought or made pita bread, and I was spoiling him with all lovely Israeli type favourite foods, and he was enjoying it. And then the next day, the dream shifted to the next day, and I had driven him to this, what looked like a shopping centre, where you have one huge set of shops, and then there's kind of a big courtyard or a thoroughfare that blends into another set of, shopping village type setup. So anyway, just observing all the workers arriving and still working on the house across the road, and they're yet to start on the one behind me. So anyway, I've driven and taken Ori to this shopping centre, and he had a very important meeting, which in real life, often, in my interactions with him, he would say, "I have a very important meeting." He was a workaholic, worked all the time, very hard. So I nodded. I said, "Well, I'll just go and sit over here and have a coffee over here while you have the meeting, and then I'll bring you back to my place." So they were specific about pointing out about this important meeting. Anyway, he came back from the meeting, walking towards me, looking really pallid and sweating and looking quite unwell. And I said to him, "Ori, whatever is wrong?" He said, "I've been poisoned." "What do you mean you've been poisoned?" He said, "I've had some kind of food spike." He said, "Something in the food I've eaten has upset me." He said, "I was so ill I had to interrupt the meeting." So I said, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I made you the most beautiful hummus from scratch." And he nodded and he said, "It'll be the garlic." "Oh," I said, "I'm so sorry. I have a long history of poisoning my close friends with foods that they shouldn't really be not realising that I'm giving them what's called a food spike." And I said, I didn't mean to, I'm so sorry. And I was genuinely in the dream really distressed. And he was like, "Oh, don't worry, I know it wasn't on purpose. I should have told you I can't eat garlic." So the message was about me apologising for poisoning him with food. Now, if you know anything about Greek mythology or even fairy mythology, you're not supposed to eat food in the underworld lest you get trapped there for eternity, number one. And number two, the food can indeed be poisonous to ordinary mortals. Although it may look absolutely delicious, it may be an illusion or a delusion. Just going to move over a little bit, got to be a little bit more in the shade. Chasing the shade. So I didn't really think about that this morning when I wrote about the dream, but I put it as a comment later because now I'm worried, quite worried. Rabbi Uri Tamal is currently 86 years old, which is quite a long.
Is this number 25 here?
Sorry?
Is this number 25?
I don't actually know what number it is. What are you looking for?
I'm doing a stump grinding.
A stump grinding.
Doing a stump.
I heard someone chopping down a tree at Jenny's house, which is that house there that's still existing. Go and check, that might be 25.
Thank you.
I've only lived here for 23 years. I still don't know what numbers my neighbours' houses are. I don't take notice of these things. So anyway, he was confused because you can see the house is completely gone. He's probably thinking you've been sent on a bum steer, but I have a feeling it's Jenny's house that they need to grind down a tree stump because I heard them chopping trees down yesterday. I was actually a bit annoyed because they'd finally finished off, the demolition and had it left, and then next thing someone's chopping trees down. I was like, fuck, what do I have to do to get peace in my garden? There's not going to be much peace for the next 12 months while they're building the new house. So it's kind of fucking awful, but there's nothing I can do about it. Anyway, now he's asking the other people, he'll probably have to move a car so he can fit in his noisy fucking stump grinding machinery. Anyway, where were we? Where was I? Where did we get interrupted? Not eating food in the underworld. Food that was toxic being fed to my rabbi. Oh yes. So then the dream continued on. This is the second night that he's staying with me. And just watching because it looks like he is going to Warren and Tasha's land after all. I wonder what stump they're grinding, because we didn't chop down. Oh, you know what? Not my monkey, not my circus, not my business. So it is on this land?
I'm going to find out now. Jenny's house is number 29. So
Yeah, it'll be theirs then. Yeah.
I'm going to find all
Do not go near the mango tree. So anyway, no idea what tree, where the stump is. Maybe I should go and have a look. He's walking around looking. Hang on a sec. Did you find it?
Yeah, I got it. It's down the back. Yeah, no, but that stuff is definitely.
I'm going to have to buy a new washing machine. Look at this. Pissing water everywhere. I don't have the money. I've just bought myself a water purifying pottery thing because the plastic things I've been using are growing mould, and I don't think that's healthy either. So I extended myself by buying that, and I can't afford a washing machine. So I guess I'll be doing washing in the laundromat for a while. Oh, poor mama too. I'm so sick of living like this. Sometimes I just want to get off the bus, guys. It's constant fucking poverty. But anyway, I've got a bladder there. I just have to pull it apart and try and get that on. Maybe it'll give that washing machine a few more years of existence. It's quite old now, but if I can nurse it along, I will. I've nursed it along before. It's had a replacement bladder about 5 or 6 years ago, so that lasted a long time. So I'm not complaining. And it was bought for me by an anonymous benefactor. So that was very kind, whoever that person was. So on we go and on we go. Right, what was I saying? What was I saying about, I'm still talking about the dream. Yes, so the second night we're sitting at the dining table together, Ori and I, enjoying each other's company convivially, and there's a knock at the door, and I open the door and there's a man arrived looking, Israeli, swarthy and dark, and very polite he was and nice, and he had a dish of traditional Yemenite food which is very spicy with lots of green type chilies and beautiful. And in the dream I'm looking at, I could even see the steam still rising off. It's kind of a couscous dish, and still rising off the food, and it looked really delicious. So, and I was sort of amazed because I thought, he's brought this food from somewhere, driven to my home. How on earth did he keep the food so hot that the steam was still coming off it? And so he brings it in to Ori, and Ori, without even looking at the food and barely acknowledging the man, said, "I'm sorry, I can't eat it." "Well, why?" He said, "I have a food spike. I can't eat anything spicy now for a few days until my stomach settles." And the man, who was aged about 38, 40, he was so, I could see the look on his face. He was so upset and disappointed because, he'd brought it to spoil Rabbi Ori Tamal in the dream in my home. And I said, "Oh, I'm terribly sorry, he can't eat it. It's my fault," I said. "I poisoned my friends with the best intentions of the world, wanting them to be healthy and happy, and I often give them food spikes, just out of not realising what their food allergies are, or making a mistake sometimes." And he looked at me, the young man, and when I say young, 40, and he said, "Oh, that's okay, Tanya. I understand. It's just I wanted to spoil the rabbi." And I said, "Yes, I spoilt him so lavishly I made him ill." And he looked at me and we nodded, and he said, "Good evening," and left. Anyway, when I woke up and was writing out the dream, I realised the young man that came to the house to bring this beautiful Yemenite food was David Groan's son, Nofar, who I haven't seen since he was a teenage boy, child even. It's been many years since I've seen him. Haven't seen his father or his mother in many, many years. So I was a bit surprised that I would dream of him coming to bring this traditional Yemenite dish as a gift for the rabbi. And I thought about it, and I thought, why am I dreaming of Rabbi Uri Tamal, especially staying with me in my home in this ridiculous bed that I had for him, and then the food poisoning and all this upset about food, which is the stuff of life, people of earth. And then I got to worry. Look, now, bear in mind, Uri, if you're watching this, excuse my lipstick's drifting. If you're watching this, my darling, I'm not pointing a bone at you. I wish you well, and I do hope that you are in hale and hearty and good health. But I was just a little bit worried because I have a history over many years now that it's happened fairly often, that people that I was close to, even sometimes acquaintances, but people that I have some kind of connection with or bond with, come to me either just prior or just after they've transitioned into the light. And the things that I worry about this dream, that something might have happened to him, I hope not. It might be symbolic in other ways. But what makes me worry was the way he looked, all golden and radiant, almost shining, and the imagery of the weird hospital type looking mattress bed, me tucking it in with the nurse's corners, and the upset about the food makes me worry that he's ill or has indeed transitioned. So I won't know because no one I know is in regular contact with him. So I just put it on my Facebook, and if anyone knows, can you inform me as to how he's doing, and I wish him well and wish him the best. But it was a very, very intense, emotional dream, and yeah, even the minute details of the steam coming off that plate of food, and dreaming of Nofar grown was also, I'm sure it was him. I'm sure it was him. He was a dark, swarthy colouring. Looked more like his mother in colouring than his father, David. And, came in at the age he is now, actually. So that was kind of unusual that he should be in the dream as well. It's unusual for me to dream of Rabbi Tamal. I have dreamt of him on occasion over the years, but this was a bit unusual in the sense of the emotions and the colour surrounding him, and just the scenes shifting between, and in real life he was always a very busy man, so shifting to I have to go to a meeting, and I just thought, yeah, that's him, always very busy, a workaholic. So I hope he's doing well, and blessed be from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. I was about to start reading Four-Letter Word to you again, because I haven't for a few days, but I'll end this video here and make it a separate video, because we're 40 minutes in and it will be too long otherwise. But my message out to Israel, or wherever Uri Tamal is now, is I truly did admire you greatly, and I truly did love you, and I'm sorry that there was a great distance between us for the last 24, 25, 26 years, but that distance was not of my creation. And I did grieve for a long time about that too, back then, 24, 26 years ago. And I'm forever grateful for your courage to care about me as a human being, as a woman, as a Reformed Jew, as a witch, and as a shaman, although neither you or I knew that I was a shaman back then. I was kind of in denial about that one too. I always knew that I was an ancestral witch though, because of my lineage through my mother's biological father, Anton Petula, whose nickname was Hunts, and actually named his son Hunts Petula. So there is that. I knew about that lineage, but I didn't know until the umpteenth fucking near death some years ago. I'm up to 17 now. I didn't understand that that was the hallmark of a shaman, not of lineage, but by virtue of the long, long history of near-death experiences or close shaves with death, living between two worlds, the world of the 3D reality and the underworld of Persephone and Hades, and the upper world where reside the angels, the gods, the hierarchy of gods. And the ancestors that love us, that come to me with these strange dream sequences and messages at times, which can be a bit confronting, quite frankly. So, blessed be on this glorious spring day. Be happy, be free, be wild. Stay true to your DNA and love the ones who love you truly, and gently let go of the rest. But the true loves of my life always come to me when they pass on. It's very strange, and I don't actually know why they do that, why they feel the need to do that. As I said, it can be confronting at times. But there's no ill intent behind it. It was just showing me, aspects of his spirit as a living man, and reminders of what it cost both of us to defend against that slander, the viciousness that went on in that congregation. And I guess by him moving to Israel was his attempt to set himself free of all of that evil, and I can't say I blame him. Probably should have gone with him. I did think about moving to Israel at the time, but a mutual friend of Ori's and mine, a Dr. Gordon Senator, or Professor Gordon Senator, advised me not to go. He said, you wouldn't be safe there with the level of poverty you're in. You're better off staying here. So I did stay here, and as they say in French, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same. But I'm gradually pulling myself up out of that darkness and horror of the past, and slowly improving my life with my creativity and my art and my tooth necklaces and making jewellery, and consolidating on things that I knew back when I was young but didn't have the courage to try and create a life from, a business or a hobby from. And it's a bit astonishing how I was held back by other people's enmity and envy and evil, up to and including from my own family of origin, who even screamed at me one time when I bought beads hoping to get myself making jewellery back in the day, back in, what year was that when they tried to undermine that? 2003. Always held back by some malignant, malevolent force. And then when COVID came and I realised this is another opportunity for draconian, malfeasant idiots to crush us and hold us back, I'm not going to comply with that, people of Earth. I put prayers out to the source field, the Holy One, and all manifestations of holiness to assist me to find a way to thrive in this paradigm. And the answer came very quickly, that I was to make jewellery again from antique flatware, spoons. And so I did. Hopefully one day people might buy from me. Just don't know. It's been dark times and people have been very fearful with the economy and haven't supported me in buying my wares, but I'm okay with that. Whatever is meant to be, people of Earth. And, I survive on the disability pension I was put on in 2005. And just make the best of what I have. If for no other reason, then it gives me comfort and ease and peace knowing that all I have ever done in life is make the best of very bad situations. Either float above it like flotsam and jetsam, or thrown into the fray, fight every inch of my way for righteousness and justice. Made a lot of enemies along the way for doing that, but the kinds of people that become your enemy for you holding your line and being a decent human being, I don't hold them in much regard. So they're not very high caliber people, certainly not very high caliber enemies. It's a bit embarrassing when you realise that. The borderline trash and vermin that ultimately take themselves out because they have no good intentions towards you are no great loss, actually. So here I sit in my garden with my beautiful birdie boys, enjoying the sunshine. And my advice to you, beautiful people of planet Earth, YouTube audience, listeners, do the same on this glorious Brisbane day, or wherever you find yourself on planet Earth. Like Crowded House, always take the weather with you, babies. Bye for now. I'll be back soon with reading the beautiful love stories. Bye for now.